Hello, can you guys hear me okay? Fun fact for any music fans out there, last night on my plane, I shared a plane with Tom York of Radiohead, so that was really exciting. I saw him about to board the plane in JFK, and I was mustering up the courage to go say something I'm sure stupid to him, and then I saw someone else take that honor before me, and he did not seem too stoked about it. So I just was like, you know what? I'm just gonna just stare awkwardly from a distance. That was kind of fun. So my name is Moran. I'm with Bouncex. Big fans of the MediaPost event. Today we'll be talking about how subscription publishers should be thinking of themselves like SaaS companies. I think in all the talk and all the headlines these days are publishers diversifying revenues and migrating from ad-supported business models exclusively to more subscription-focused business models. But I think something that gets lost in all of that is just how much of a tectonic shift it is in that business model. An ad-supported business and a subscription-supported business are two remarkably different businesses. And unfortunately, a lot of publishers just think that they can put up some paywalls and do some other minor nuanced changes, and all of a sudden they have a successful subscription business, when in reality, everything changes in every department. And so what I'm going to talk about today is how each department looks when you go from an ad-supported business model to a subscription-supported business model, and all those changes that happen, and frankly, how a subscription publisher should think like a SaaS company. I actually spoke to MediaPost about this back in February. They published a piece on it. I think the reason they came to us is, so we work with publishers that are purely ad-supported, and we do that through an ad product that we have. And we work with publishers that are subscription-supported, and we do that through our SaaS product, and we help drive email capture and online conversions into those subscriptions for those clients. And we work with major publisher clients, many of which are in this room here today. Bouncex itself is predominantly a SaaS company. We'll cross the $100 million ARR mark this year, which is a feat that very few SaaS companies actually accomplish, so we're pretty happy about that. And then we have a large and growing ad-supported business as well. So we do know this world very well, which is why I think MediaPost wanted to chat with us about it, and why I'm happy to chat with you about it here today. So yeah, I talked about how different it is in every department. I'm going to cover how it changes in marketing and sales, customer management, and your product and editorial. The first thing I'll do is just talk about editorial, because that's kind of the most obvious statement I'm going to make, I think, here today. Whoops, it didn't change on here. Oh, well, I'll start with marketing. Sorry. I thought that the change was reflected prior to these slides being sent into MediaPost, so I apologize for that. So on the marketing side, right, when you're advertising-based, predominantly what you care about is traffic acquisition, right? Just high volumes of traffic at the lowest cost, get those eyeballs in there, the scale, you make more money. When you convert to subscription-based, yeah, that's good, but that's really just the beginning of the narrative. When you're marketing and you're a subscription-based company or a SaaS-based company, you think about a conversion funnel. So traffic acquisition is just the beginning of that story. You want to think about the quality of the traffic, you want to think about lead generation, and you want to think about lead nurturing. So how exactly do SaaS companies approach marketing? Well, if you look at that funnel at the top, you have prospecting. Yes, that is traffic acquisition. And you can do that through content marketing, through advertising, through events, through batch and blast emails. That's how SaaS companies do it. To really just fill in the top of the funnel. The next phase would be lead creation, right? This is where you're capturing qualified prospects' email address, or you're getting people to download a white paper to get their contact information. You're hosting webinars. You have to somehow, once you attract those people, get their information so you can then nurture those leads. I don't think a lot of publishers really do this all that well. There are some that do, but a lot of them they're taking the traffic and then they hope for the conversion, when they really need to be thinking about a funnel. Because few people will come in, read an article, and just be like, yeah, I'm going to convert, I'll pay. No, there's like a dating process. And this is basically the dating process when you have a subscription-based business. And then down at the bottom, the lead nurturing, you have to set up drip email campaigns. You should do triggered emails. A lot of publishers, unfortunately, are not taking advantage of triggered emails, which are really powerful because it creates recency. Imagine you go to a publisher's site, you consume their content, 10 minutes later in your inbox is messaging around how to pay for a subscription. That recency is extremely powerful. E-commerce companies have been leveraging that for years, and they convert at like 40%. Publishers should be taking advantage of these. You could also do ad retargeting after someone comes to the site. And then direct mail, gifts. Yes, SaaS companies do direct mail and gifts because there's more meat on the bone. They're charging more per month. I get that. A lot of media companies where the subscription pricing is lower probably doesn't warrant that level of expense. But something to think through, right? Not all of these things should a publisher be doing, but certainly they should be drawing inspiration from SaaS companies. Let's go into sales. Sales in an ad-based company is predominantly around agency and brand sales, programmatic revenue. The things that you're obsessed about if you're on a sales team is scale. If you're thinking about audience segments, you're thinking about the programmatic pipes and integrations. When you then migrate over to a subscription-based business, and when you're in sales, the obsession points, they change. You think about value prop messaging. You think about on-site conversions, on-site optimizations to convert those people maybe from on the landing page. You think about different pricing experiments. You think about billing, payments, corporate accounts, maybe like a ton of corporate seats, right? So how do SaaS companies approach sales? Number one, they identify a pain point in the potential buyer. What's your pain point? And then number two, how is our solution going to solve that pain point? If you're selling anything in this world, that's table stakes. Identify the pain point, make your prospective customer acknowledge that pain point that they have, and let them see how your solution is going to solve that pain. If I'm selling ice cream, the pain point is, I don't know, boredom. Let the potential customer understand that they're bored and they want ice cream. Here's my wonderful ice cream for you to consume. Every sale should include a pain point and a solution, and publishers are not really doing this when it comes to their subscription messaging. What else do SaaS companies do really well? They give social proof. Here's your pain point. Here's a solution to that pain point. Here are other people that are using our solution, and look how they're excelling. Look how great their lives are because they're using our solution. So give that social proof through testimonials, white papers, case studies. I don't really know. It could just be something as simple as testimonials for low-priced publisher offerings. Tie the solution to some sort of ROI, an expected return that I'm going to get if I pay you that $5 a month, that $10 a month, whatever the case may be. And then finally, price the product according to value. I think, unfortunately, a lot of subscriptions are priced pretty cheaply. And what happens there is the customers tend to not ascribe much value to it. I think then what happens is in the company, people probably end up not working as hard, realizing, hey, it's not priced that much. We don't have to put that much into it. When you price yourself at the top of the market, frankly, like Bouncex does, like we are a high-price solution. But what happens there is that people appreciate your product. You put your heart and soul into that product. And you make sure that you're driving ROI for your customers. And I think publishers need to think that way and probably price their offerings a little bit higher than what you see out there, the $2 a month, $3 a month. I spoke with Tony Hale, the founder of Scroll, and I think they're going to end up pricing their product, and he might kill me for even quoting this, but they might end up pricing their product like $6, $7 a month because they ran a bunch of studies that say anything lower than that, customers don't value it. So you need to come in at a certain minimum threshold for customers to really value your product. Retention. This is everything for a SaaS-based company. This should be everything for a subscription-focused publisher. So with retention, if you're just ad-based, the things you're thinking about are like page views per session, tag load, page latencies, ad density, things like that. When you convert to subscription-based, that matters a little bit less. What matters more in terms of retention when you're subscription-based are things like frequency of visits, actual utilization of the product. You have to think about customer service tickets. You have to think about chargebacks. You have to think about expired credit cards. And then you have to think about how you constantly demonstrate ROI to your subscribers. So how do SaaS companies look at retention? And this is something that absolutely publishers that deal with subscriptions should be focused on. Number one, you want to drive frequent usage. You don't care how, but people need to be touching your product. They say that software is a contact sport. You want people touching that product. Same goes with your subscription product. So frequent usage, undeniable metrics around that usage. You want to have regular check-ins. Someone should be reaching out to the customers of the publisher saying, how are you enjoying your subscription? What can we do better? Frequent check-ins so they know that they're valued. You want to highlight the value at each touch point. Say, hey, yeah, we see you've consumed 16 pieces of content this month. Who knows? Highlight that value at every touch point. And you want to continue to improve and add to your offerings, even if it doesn't mean you're going to extract more pricing from them. It's a retention game. So yes, you're going to invest in additional features and additional products, and that is going to drive additional sales. But even more importantly, it's going to retain the customers you currently have. Retention is everything. And then ultimately, and SaaS companies do this, publishers could do this as well, you want to convert people into longer-term contracts. Move them off of the monthly rolling contracts and create an incentive to get them into a quarterly or annual contract. The information does this really well. The information, I'm a subscriber, I was paying monthly. Then for an annual subscription, you had access to special insights and reports that they have. It was a great value exchange, so I went for it. You guys, a lot of publishers could probably do that as well. Product. When you're an ad-supported publisher, product matters in the sense that you want your content to be consumed in an environment where you can show ads, and we can show premium ads, and you can show a high volume of ads. That matters. If your content's being consumed in an ad-free environment, it doesn't do you all that much good when you're only ad-supported. That narrative changes once you're subscription-based. When you're subscription-based, you don't care if people consume your content, so you're going to put it out everywhere. You just want them consume your content. You want them touching your content, frequent usage. You need to come up with unique content offerings. New York Times does this, right, with the crossword product, with recipes, what have you. You're going to, again, continue to add and bolster your offering for that retention, and that is really driven by product. And then, if you're a larger, have large subscriptions, you can do things like special events. You could do, access to reporters, things like special access, little perks that make people feel special as being a subscriber, but that's really driven by product as well. And so, yeah, how do SaaS companies approach product? Number one, you got to talk to salespeople. So subscription publishers need to be doing this as well. Talk to salespeople, but not too much. So take it all with a grain of salt, right? Same thing with talking to users. You want to talk to users, but not too much. Take it all with a grain of salt. But let those inform your product roadmap, for sure. If you're not talking to salespeople, you're not talking to your customers, you're flying blind. Ignore the competition. It's easy to look at the competition and try to be a fast follower or what have you. Do your own thing, right? You're going to be much better served that way. And then finally, give every new product initiative an individual owner, because there's accountability there. If one product person, the same human being, is managing 4 different products, they are diversified in their risk, and they're diversified in their upside. And you do not want that in your company. You don't want diversification like that. You want someone who, when they're in their shower, they're thinking about that product. When they're falling asleep at night, they're thinking about that product. And if it fails, the glory's on them and their team. Or excuse me, if it fails, the onus is on them. And if they succeed, the glory is shared among their team. That's what you want. So give every new initiative its own human being to own it, and then give it its own oxygen. That's how SaaS companies succeed in product. And that's how subscription publishers should succeed in product. Editorial, this is the slide I thought was going to come first, and this is the one that's kind of the most obvious. Like when you're advertising based, what you care about is creating editorial with some pretty broad appeal, real SEO driven, share worthy, click worthy headlines, what have you. When you're subscription based, that changes, right? Your content strategy, your editorial strategy should be entirely different. You're going for niche, you're going for unique, you're going for content that people can't get anywhere else. They can only get it from you. So you either cover content uniquely or a unique voice, or deliver to some unique format. But there needs to be some differentiation in it, otherwise people aren't going to pay for your product. So editorial has to completely change. So every department has to take on a tectonic shift when you go from ad-supported to subscription-supported. And I think people don't really appreciate how stark those differences are. And so I just encourage publishers to think more like SaaS companies. And I'll end it with one kind of like gloomy thing. You hear about LTV all the time, right? The lifetime value of a customer. When it comes to SaaS companies and subscription-based companies, even e-commerce, they think through LTV. And LTV is really, this is a simplified equation. This is not the actual LTV formula, so please don't tell me, you got it all wrong. But this is a very good approximation of it, which is basically take your monthly price, subtract your operating costs from that, so you have your monthly margin on each individual user, multiply that by the number of months that you tend to retain them, and then from that you subtract your acquisition cost. What did you pay to acquire that customer? That's your LTV. And every company is looking to drive up LTV. But what you see oftentimes when people are I see this all the time in the startup world too, right? Like in the startup world, people are pitching, to investors, oh, like every metric in the LTV equation is going to go up and up and up, and it just doesn't work that way. Think of the every variable in the LTV formula is like a horse going in an opposite direction, and they're tugging on each other, right? So what happens is let's say you want to raise your price, that's going to have a ripple effect somewhere else in the LTV equation. If you raise your price, unfortunately, your churn goes up. So your retention goes down, right? That's an opposing force. That's a problem. Let's say you want growth. You want to grow, and like your boss is like, oh, we need to grow 30% this year. Cool. You're going to spend a ton more on marketing, right? But when you do that, your acquisition costs go up. So that hurts your LTV. Also, your churn's going to go up because when you spend more money to acquire more customers, you get a little bit looser with the qualification of that customer. You're going to be getting customers that probably aren't perfectly suited for your product. So what's going to happen is they're going to stick around for a little bit, and then they're going to churn. So your churn goes up. And then the last thing, let's say you do want to help out with retention, right? You see churn goes up in both of those scenarios. So let's say, oh, well, let's invest in retention. Great. What happens when you invest in retention? How do you do that? Most likely, you have to invest in your product and build out more product kind of like for free, because it may not generate new direct sales, but it's going to keep people around longer that otherwise would have churned, because now they're getting more out of your product. So it's harder to attribute those product initiatives to direct revenue because it's just people sticking around longer, but that matters. So if you want to grow retention, your operating costs are going to go up because you're creating new products or new editorial, what have you. And then also you might have more customer service people just tending, giving that white glove service to your subscribers or to your customers, and that also adds to your operating costs. So when you think about the LTV equation, just think about the areas you want to focus on, and how can you mitigate the then negative effect, the inverse effect in other parts of that equation. So that's all I think I had for today, which is just don't take it lightly when you go from ad-supported to subscription-supported. It is a remarkably different business that you're getting into across every single department in your organization, and you got to think hard about it. You probably have to hire different people, just have a different mentality in that business. That's all I had. Yep. I don't know if there's questions or not, but are there questions or no?
Hey, thanks, man. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, we got maybe a minute here. Anyone? Grill the man. Hold on. As we go through the 3 days here, when you ask questions, just let us know who you are and where you're from.
Hi, Bob Regular from Infolinks. So you actually literally deal with this problem or this opportunity in Bouncex, which is why you're so wise about it, right? And you have so much information about it. So how, from a sort of a realistic reality perspective, how do you throttle the side of being ad side versus subscription side and divide the company in these two type of strategies, right, and get an excellent outcome? Because they're so different, and like you sort of parsed it, if you're ad side, you think of it this way. If you're SaaS side, you think of it this way. These are two mindsets in one company, right? So as a publisher who does both, most of the time you don't have enough people, right, to really straddle both. So you're asking people to be two-minded, and that's challenging. So how do you do that in
Bouncex? It's a really good question. We battled with this at Bouncex because, like you said, we do deal with both sides of the house. What we found really worked, and you have to invest in it, unfortunately, is there was quite a bit of separation. So the SaaS side of things at Bouncex operate very differently from the ad. So I'm GM of the ad business unit, and I report directly to our CEO, but we have different product teams, different analytics, marketing everything's different, so it is siloed. And I guess, yes, I'm coming in from a luxurious situation where we're venture backed and we had the dollars to hire all those people and invest and take on losses until you build the businesses up. But without separating the two, it's hard to serve two masters. So you really just need to decide, are we all in subscriptions? Are we all in ads? Because if you straddle, you're not going to do either remarkably well unless you're willing to put in the dollars. And I think that's why you're going to see a lot of, we're seeing a ton of consolidation as well. It's a tough one, man. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Andres, you have a team here. Yeah? Raise your hand if you're with the Bouncex crew. Yep.
There's Jason in the back and Patrick right there.
Very good. So if you have more questions for these guys, you guys are in for the duration, I presume. So grab these guys for the next couple of days and feel free to follow up on what Andres presented.
Thank
Big
you,
round of applause. Thank you, Andres, for kicking us off. We appreciate it.